What is the IPO that you're most excited by, Anand, in the next 12 months?
I think it's a large IPO. Look at the revenue and the profits.
I was just checking numbers, 4,000 crores of revenue, 1,800 crores of PAT in FY25.
I think it excites me a lot.
Of all the doom and gloom in fintech, suddenly there is this company that may go IPO at $8 to $10 billion, which very fresh thing for the market.
Investing is more about exits than entry.
Are you seeing any emerging trends on AI being used?
Financial influencers and content marketing has been the key source of acquiring for fintechs, right? Across the entire Groww story is the financial influencer and the content story, right? How they did about it.
When we were discussing yesterday, I opened up my phone to see how many autopays do I have. मेरे को याद भी नहीं था कितने हैं. I figured out I had 31. While numbers are crazy for UPI Autopay, it's become 10 crore recurring digital transactions in India last year. To this year, it's become 400 crore. Out of that, so that number has become 2x. Whereas UPI Autopay was 70 crores, it's become 210 crores.
फाइनेंशियल एक्सेस वाला जो प्रॉब्लम था, फाइनेंशियल एक्सेस का प्रॉब्लम हो गया अभी. अब यूपीआई से अगर लोगों का ट्रस्ट हटने लगा.
Hey everyone, welcome to episode 33 of the Asymmetric Podcast. Another week and Shantanu is still unwell. Please send him your wishes. He's had a massive pain in the lower back, nerve being compressed and a lot of pain in the legs. So he's sort of bedridden. He needs some time to recover. So we're going to continue without him for another week. Hopefully he gets well soon and will join us from next week. Today, we have an amazing guest, Anand Datta, partner at Nexus Venture Partners, to discuss all things fintech, UPI, B2B, and a lot of the upcoming IPOs as well. Please welcome Anand and Chirag. I have a question. Assuming that the Indian public markets that are rewarding liquidity today may not be the case 10 years later, which is why people want to keep the optionality. Like the previous decade, we may have to end up again listing in the US. And therefore, can you set up your company in Cayman Islands? Because tomorrow it could be Hong Kong or Singapore as well, or could be Middle East for all we know, right? So I'm assuming that's the optionality for which people are saying. But I have a contra view on this. I know it may seem a little painful for a Meesho to pay 200 million in tax or a Razorpay to pay 300 million in tax. But if you have created $7 billion in value, then it's par for course. I think that it's over-optimizing to think of kahan register karna hai. Just India mein register karo aur chalte baro na. Why would you do all of this Cayman Island and stuff?
But Revant, wasn't it linked to कि यार पहले global access to capital वही होता था? I see, by the way, Anand, you should tell by basis your experience. People who are saying B2B SaaS 50% of revenue is in US, you should still list there. You should still open your company in US.
Correct.
But अच्छा 10 साल पहले तो think about it ना, YC etc. Everyone mandated that you had to list in US if you want to get YC funding. अभी Indian markets open हो गए हैं and then IPO markets looks like it's deepening.
हुआ क्या था, आप देखिए पहले एक तो इंडिया में सोर्सेज ऑफ कैपिटल भी इतने नहीं थे, सो यू वर ऑलवेज वरीड दैट द फॉरेन कैपिटल विल दे इन्वेस्ट इन अ इंडियन डिनोमिनेटेड और इंडियन डोमिसाइल्ड कंपनी और नॉट, बिकॉज व्हाट सॉर्ट ऑफ कॉप गव एंड ऑल दैट यू हैव, एंड सो व्हाट सॉर्ट ऑफ लीगल प्रोटेक्शन दे हैव, तो वो यूएस में चाहते थे. So that's why YC and all had mandated. There was a time when YC made people flip if they were Indian incorporated to go and become a Delaware. So now what happened was, I think one of the pivotal moment was actually Freshworks IPO. Now, if you think about Freshwork as a company, it's like generating $500-600 million. Probably it has gone to $800 million, this thing. But there was a time when utna generate karne ke baad bhi there were analysts who were not covering it, and they were like, it went to a very big high, it came down. And now questions started becoming that, what is and obviously at the same time, Zomato and others listed in India. And they got super massive premium compared to, let's say, the comparable companies which was happening in the US. So now the question started becoming that Indian companies by nature are not going to be as large as, let's say, the US companies and all, because of the GDP and whatever. Separate SaaS and separate this one. So now if some companies, let's say B2B companies and others, where you know कि यार size of outcome यही होने वाला है, and India में ही आपको India से ही ज़्यादा है, and at the same time funding environment in India had increased, like it was like all the foreign capitals in 2021, 2022, they also access India and they wanted to have a pie of India. Then why would you not have it domiciled in India? Why would you even have it domiciled in the US? Now, and but now AI वगैरह के वक्त अभी फिर से वो डिस्कशन कई बार चलता है कि भाई the other thing also happened, which is a more, I don't think it has as much implication, but a little bit nuance, कि इंडिया से जो इंडिया एलपी कैपिटल वाली कंपनीज फंड्स थी, उनको यूएस में पैसा ट्रांसफर करने में जान निकल गया. सो मॉर्निंग इटसेल्फ आई वाज टॉकिंग टू वन ऑफ माय एक्स फाउंडर्स, लाइक उसकी कंपनी मैंने पहले फंड की थी, अभी उसने एआई की कंपनी स्टार्ट की है. कॉम्प्लेक्स स्ट्रक्चर, वन यूएस दिस थिंग, वन इंडिया में आईपी हेल्ड है, यूएस में कुछ पैसा गया है, इंडिया में कुछ पैसा है. US investors have just told them that you'll have to clean that out, otherwise we will not put money in you. So that sort of things, when that starts happening, right, people start, again this goes in waves. Right now again the wave is that will US US AI companies, you are better off being completely US domiciled, because all the revenues are supposed to come to you, and then the large rounds happening very early on, people want to put on you. So there is to Revant your question, there is obviously, it's an evolving situation. There was this one phase जहाँ पे I know 3 funds went into the extreme saying that कि अगर आप flip नहीं करोगे तो मैं fund नहीं करूँगा. One of the companies in which I am on the board of it's at a 10 million revenue, and it was like कि flip करो यहाँ पे, because SME exchange में आप list हो जाओगे. So and it is not known that IPO window could have closed while they would have flipped. So all these sort of things started happening, which I think people are just reacting right now. I don't think people have an answer. In that scenario, I will probably hear somebody say कि हाँ Cayman Island में कर लो या फिर किसी में कर लो, then you have the best of the optionality कि कहाँ पे. Because if you think of the tax hit, US का tax hit, basically US का जो law बोलता है, I don't recall it exactly, but 20% के करीब का आपको hit लगता है पिछले valuation पे, which is almost one round worth of dilution for you. Now, obviously, the accountants and this lawyers have the ways to show it in a way. What is a valuation, not valuation in a private this thing I'm quoting the number based on one of the companies which was trying to flip back, which was very early in its journey. So I'm not exact number figure क्या आएगा, but it's for any company it almost becomes one extra round of dilution. You put that 200 million का number भी ना इसी में भी, तो मतलब why any point of your journey it is a painful exercise if you end up having to do it.
And Anand, let's say if we double click on it, while one decision point is when you're starting a company, right? You have a view कि यार मैं तो इंडिया कंपनी बनाने वाला हूँ, so the answer is very clear. Maybe I think for brands, businesses also answer is very clear, predominant revenues India. In fact, not only one but 2 questions. Let's say a B2B business which starts in India and then start to think globally, and we know global TAMs are higher. If you hit PMF, then that will surpass India. So then how should one be thinking, from that perspective? And 2, how do Indian markets actually value a company which has predominant exports revenue, right? Will it get the same kind of multiple? Will it get the same kind of traction, retail acceptance? Those two things.
Actually, तो better मिलता है शायद. I would think that anything which is getting in dollars, you look at the history in IT services or others also, typically आपको शायद you end up getting better. I don't know, DTC के examples उतने नहीं है, B2B SaaS ही अभी तक ज्यादा है. Maybe the first crop of B2B export companies will start going towards that. I can only give my personal ये bias. I would say that कि अगर आपका predominantly India में रहने वाला है, capital source भी India में होने वाला है, तो you listed in India, don't worry about it. Until and unless your capital source you believe becomes a blockage, जिसके कारण you have to be in the US, which is probably linked to AI or others, there you should selectively try to be a US incorporated company. And I'll say because 2-3 होते, मतलब ऐसा नहीं है कि इंडिया डोमिसाइल्ड कंपनी को आपके PE इन्वेस्टिंग्स नहीं मिल रहा है, but maybe if you want to tomorrow, let's say, get a PE exit or a non-IPO exit, Again, in India, domiciled company might have lesser avenues compared to what a SaaS company will have as an avenue in the US. So what I'm trying to say actually is similar to many things in life. कि it's a case to case basis होता है. अगर आप वैसे कट करेंगे तो DTC B2B के केस में तो मुझे क्लियरली लगता है कि you should just domicile in India. Why should you be a domiciled in the US? In SaaS, most likely you should be in the US if majority of your revenue and future things are going to, especially in this AI world, you should try to be in the US domicile. There will be edge cases where you are thinking for some other reason, like let's say first set of capital that is coming to you is a India capital. वो बाहर जा ही नहीं सकता है तो कब क्या करोगे आपको इंडिया डोमिसाइल होना पड़ेगा. If you think that tomorrow you are trying to be a India SMB SaaS where you cannot see that you will be a more than 100 million revenue company, you are a BFSI SaaS, like I have funded some of the BFSI SaaS companies also. You will want to be an India domiciled company. So case by case ही होगा. Answer is one. Yeah.
इसमें I have a question though, Anand. For a SaaS company, if you're saying US domicile may make sense, but the contra view is that a SaaS company less than 500 million revenue में US में भाव ही नहीं मिलेगा. Like US investors also look for a definite scale because वहाँ पे scale अलग ही level पे है ना.
Correct. That is what is happening, right? That is exactly Freshwork वाला जो example we were taking after what the view became after that. So emerging तो दो theme वहीं पे where I'm saying that right now still the verdict is out. I know that I'm giving the easy answer out over there because some answer is coming कि Cayman में कर लो या फिर कहाँ पे कर लो जिससे tomorrow if you have to flip, you can flip easily. But to Chirag's earlier point, right? Actually अगर आप US domiciled हो, आपने fund raise कर लिया उतना और IPO के पास you have to take that call that you have to flip back is an easier call than you see the morbidity rate of companies where you have to raise fund and probably the amount and pool of capital that is available to you if your end customer base is in the US and you are domiciled here. That's the things that you'll have to weigh कि आप कैसे करोगे इसमें. अगर आप केवल ही इंडिया SaaS होने वाले हो 100 like take the examples of the Perfiuses of the world or some, for example, Finarkin, which have funded and all that sort of companies, they should be India domiciled. Like, why should they be, US domiciled company? But let's say tomorrow you want to raise from Kleiner Perkins, which is not here in India, whether they will be very, very open to funding some company which is under the Indian jurisdiction and all that sort of thing, you will get those questions. So in that context, to get a view that कि अच्छा कल मैं 10 साल बाद 500 मिलियन की कंपनी बन जाऊंगा तब मुझे शायद फ्लिप बैक करना पड़े इंडिया to be in an IPO versus, and I'm trying to think as a founder, how will I think versus कि यार पहले आज का दिन को मतलब get the best access to the capital which can change you, get access to the customers also in the US versus all that sort of thing happens. I in my personal view that outweighs than saying कि I might have to flip back 10 years down the line.
Yeah, also, I would agree. I would actually think that is today, the Indian markets are already so deep, much deeper than what they were, let's say, 5 years back. And if you keep compounding this over the next 10 years, there is no reason why even a $500 million SaaS business would not want to list in India. देखो, capital market depth तो यहाँ से compound ही होगी ना आपकी. आज कितना 4-4.5 ट्रिलियन है अपना capital market.
नहीं मैं लिस्ट की बात नहीं कर रहा हूँ रेवंत. लिस्ट तो इंडिया में करना शायद बेटर होता है, बट यहाँ से लिस्टिंग तक के जर्नी के बीच में जो आपके सोर्सेज ऑफ कैपिटल मिल रहे हैं उसमें एज अ SaaS कंपनी वुड यू शॉर्ट चेंज योरसेल्फ इफ यू आर इन इंडिया लिस्टेड वर्सेस लेट्स से यू आर अ US listed company?
And this you are saying is also a function because the crossover investors have reduced. If you compare the ZERP era, there were a lot of crossover investors who would invest in SaaS in India as well, because they just wanted access to the Indian market. And now that has just disappeared, right? Series B onwards, जो पहले वो growth checks वाले थे, सब गायब हो गए.
You're exactly, but this was one of the points I was telling Chirag when you dropped off that कि बीच में इंडिया में भी बहुत like you see all the Kotus of the world, Insights of the world, Rebits of the world, everyone was here. Right now, they are there, but it's not really, really there. So you have a big gap in between. Where you have local capital also, like bunch of us, we have raised very, very large funds and we are actively deploying. हमें करना ही पड़ेगा deploy. ये होगा. But at the same time, let's say if you are finding, I'm putting this out, like let's say you are fighting a global AI, you are a global AI company. You get the example I was saying, you get like the Sequoia of the world or a KP of the world backing you. Why would you want to have any risk on that capital source because you are a India domicile? It's a risk question.
Got it. Interestingly, maybe that's a cue for all of you guys to also increase your fund sizes like the large guys in the US have. Like, Sequoia is becoming bigger and General Catalyst is becoming bigger and Lightspeed is becoming bigger in the US. There could be a case where you would say that जो gap है Series B, Series C का, वो भी हम ही cover करेंगे with a growth fund. Is a pitch you could?
Isn't this getting into that zone where we discussed this in, I think, last few episodes, where fund size is getting larger, then it becomes a problem in terms of return, right? So what is an actual good size? Is it a $300 billion fund or a $1 billion fund? Because we have seen, outcomes can vary, very, in our company also, let's say a Sequoia would be at multi-X, whereas let's say someone who's come in at day one will be at a very different multiple, and they have a smaller size fund. So, from a fund returner point of view, the outcomes are very, very different.
तो उसमें थोड़ा सा Nexus unique हो जाता है. I think we have always maintained that because we are only fund which has like a one fund, one team structure. So like whatever our fund last size, how much of we do not have any mandate like इसमें से इतना हमें US में डालना है, इतना हमें India में डालना है. We are a very bottoms up, like where we are seeing the opportunity. So, but at the same time, we know that. So for our case uniquely, I absolutely agree to you, Chirag, jo aap bol rahe ho. India opportunity, like amount of fund, sort of chasing the GDP opportunity which India has, that has to somewhere match up. Otherwise, आप return नहीं कर पाओगे. Sometimes you will pump in more money at a valuation where it will be harmful to the company rather than the natural course of the company. In our case, it's more decided by the stage that we come. We have, if you see Nexus, we have remained very concentrated. For the size of our AUM, we probably have the least number of companies. Probably. I've not done the exact maths. But at the same time, we still come at seed, pre-seed, and Series A. So the check sizes that goes for the size of our fund, whether it be in the US or India, it goes in a way like where we are still able to back a lot of our winners very, very deeply. तो हमारे केस में वो स्ट्रैटेजी होता है कि हमारे जो विनर्स रहते हैं उसमें वी ओन a significant amount till the very late stages of the company. So that's how our strategy has in all our winners has played out. If you see any of like India Shelter Finance going to IPO, because it's a public data, you can see how much we hold. It's north of 20% at IPO. Similarly, like if you see Delivery, how much we own, or you see Zepto, how much we own right now. These are all public data. You can see like that's how the strategy has worked for us. But that will still be under a guardrail of the size of the fund. It will not go beyond a particular size.
But ये बहुत high risk नहीं है Anand, because for a seed stage investment, like when you enter at a sub 10 million, sub $15 million valuation and a company is at 4-5 billion, not taking chips off the table is very risky. Na? Like if I was an LP, I would tell you that as a money manager, आपने पूरा risk लिया. अब like if you hold 20 or you hold 15, it's not going to materially change, because as an LP, I would say that I have access to growth funds also who would enter a Delivery or a India Central Finance or a Zepto at 3 billion, 4 billion and give me access to those companies even then and the subsequent IRR that goes from there. But correct. Because now it's a much more de-risked business. Though one could argue in India, even at 2-3 billion, nothing is de-risked. Like there is always a risk, right? I was shocked when I saw the commentary from, I don't remember which investment bank saying that Zomato's food delivery value is 0. Right? But could happen, right? Because if Rapido enters and says that what I did to Ola and Uber, I will do to Swiggy and Zomato, there materially it could actually go down, right? Like all this profit that Swiggy and Zomato are making could go away. So as a seed stage firm, why would you take that risk? And as an LP, why would they be okay with that?
So there is more nuance to it. I don't know how much of this in public forum I can talk, but couple of things. First of all, we always have a separate growth vehicle also, which is just for the same, our own company growth fund, right? Like you have a growth vehicle attached. So case by case, it's taken this thing. There are cases in which we take chips off. There are cases in which we stay invested as and when required. There is obviously a process that is followed. So it doesn't happen. Like you are exactly right. There will be some cases where, as a seed stage investor, if you are getting a good exit, should you not take? You would take, and you would take one move ahead. And the other nuances is in that in our fund structure, there is obviously a growth vehicle always, where in our company, this is like opportunity fund is what it's called. Revant, you are from VC, right? Like, so we have an opportunity fund component from which we sort of, like take the positions where this company, do we want to keep ownership? That's But your point is exactly right. Like, in fact, when I was in Franklin Templeton, I remember Mark Mobius ka एक statement होता था कि investing is more about exits than entry. Like people can make entry. When do you want to exit? And the same thing I remember Naren was telling me in the 2021 cycle. I still fondly remember he telling me that, this is the time for exits and not entries. And many people don't even know that they are ruining their career right now, what they are doing by investing in companies at that valuation. So, and it was funny for me because I was just 1.5 years into the ecosystem in VC ecosystem at that time. But you are exactly right. Doing the exit in the right way at the right time. And then thankfully, the Indian startup ecosystem has now come into that journey or that part where the exits have started happening, right, in a meaningful way. I hope that this creates more and more avenues for such exits.
आप बोल रहे हो कि ग्रोथ स्टेज लेट स्टेज भी इंडिया में हो रहा है दैट कैपिटल पूल इज राइजिंग डेफिनेटली आई थिंक व्हाट वी सॉ आई हैव दीज नंबर्स व्हिच वी वर डिस्कसिंग Y Combinator 2021 had 74 Indian startups in 2021. In 2024 it's become single digit 9 and Anand, you are saying this year it's become 0 और
एक होगा एक या दो होगा जो इंडिया से जाके बट it's not. I'll tell you how this thing.
It's not the favorite port of call, or people used to go there. That's the mecca if you want to raise.
I think ulta hai. YC is not focusing in India. Ulta.
Yes.
I think jabki if you see YC is probably one of the most successful investors in India, right? Like you see Groww, Zepto, Razorpay. You talk about it, some of the largest outcome, but I think YC is not focusing. It's very funny because.
Actually, Varas, Zepto is very big in YC is very big investments because the continuity fund also invested a lot of capital likewise. So Anu, who used to lead the continuity fund, deployed a significant amount of capital in Zepto. I think Series B, C, D somewhere. They hold 10% plus, right? From what I gather. So
they are
pretty big. But I agree with Anand. I think Chirag हुआ क्या है YC में कि because it's become AI first, they are now totally. Like I was speaking to one of the GPs today of one of the tier 1 funds in the country, and they were there for YC demo day. So because now every Nexus was always there in the US, but now every top tier fund in India now has a US office with a US partner / fully permanent stationed person there. All of them are now doing YC demo day because YC has become fully AI first and they're like, Valley is where the action is. It's almost like the Valley has been revived, right? Beech mein 4 saal, people were like writing the death knell. Everyone was moving to Florida or some other state and saying that, California is done. But suddenly in the last 18-24 months, SF Valley has been sort of revived and now the action is fully back on being AI first and all the action.
YC में भी डेमो डे तक सब कुछ हो चुका होता है, like the good companies and this thing. So if you are there on demo day, you better be there from a month before demo day.
It's more for learning at least. Like I don't think they were there for deal making, but inspiration तो वैसे ही आता है ना. Like I would argue that a lot of Misho's inspiration was when the founders would have visited Southeast Asia, China, and seen what is happening. And then evolved, it really evolves your thinking as a founder or an investor when you get exposure, right? In the end, that is what most of good decision making is. The more exposed you are, the more outside in thinking you can do, the better your judgment calls in the end.
And I think YC, for whatever like many people have, talked negatively about YC as being a very big marketing, engine. But YC for all of that gives you that exposure also. जब आप YC में रहते हो, when you talk to the 5 people, see they truly do have the operators sitting over there and talking to them, working very very closely. Like we have Puneet right now with us as a venture partner. He was very deeply involved with YC before that. His company was in YC earlier. So what I hear from him on internally how they support and talk to the companies, it's like credit to them. We should try to replicate that in our ecosystem as well.
या कहाँ पे ऑफिस आवर्स में कंसेक्यूटिव वीक्स में एंड्रे कार्पाची और इलॉन मस्क आते हैं यार, मतलब अभी भी वो तो दैट इज देयर ऑफिस आवर्स, राइट? सो दैट एक्सेस इज जस्ट नेक्स्ट लेवल, राइट, फॉर दैट.
And so if you are building in AI and if you are building in anything, like if you do not get that access, then you are shortchanged. That worries me about India in the AI companies, right? Like I'm like right now, if you see in the AI race, we are very, very far behind just because of the access or like my next door neighbor, very close friend of mine, plays tennis with me. कुछ दिन शुरू में बनाया इंडिया में टियर 1 फंड से सीड कैपिटल लिया. नेक्स्ट डे उसने डिसाइड किया मैं जाके यूएस में बैठ जाऊंगा. इसने एक एयरबीएनबी लिया, जाके वहां पे बैठ गया. And then he was telling me the sort of just by talking and the assimilation which happens to this versus when he was building here with his co-founder sitting in the US. It's not just about GTM. Like many people have made this about GTM. This is not just about GTM. तो आप नहीं कर सकते हो.
AI में वापस से वो ट्रू है, your pin codes decide the destiny. So network effects clearly in play. Whatever we may say, Bangalore has its own network effect, Bombay has its own. I think वो हमारे यहाँ clearly missing. Especially with respect to AI. We are just starting to think about AI applications, core. And clearly, if you speak to any SF founder, he'll say, okay, what are you solving today? It looks like clearly a third world problem. ये तो हम मतलब टच भी नहीं करने वाले टाइप्स.
हाँ, मतलब एंड मे बी पर्कुलेट करेगा, जो होगा वो होगा, बट टेक लेवल पे वो एंड चाइना, यूएस एंड चाइना आर सो फार अहेड राइट नाउ इन एआई दैट वी आर नॉट इवन we do not have the ecosystem or a mean to. Yeah.
But just out of curiosity, do you guys do anything to give founders exposure to these ecosystems in certain way, especially for companies who are based here?
हाँ, तो हमारा तो वही, that's why Nexus was unique, right, Chirag? What I was saying, day zero फंडा था कि we will not have a Nexus US, Nexus India इस टाइप से नहीं होगा. There is one team, this structure. Even if I fund a company, we have the Nexus office, they will sit over there. Like Jishnu, Abhishek are as much a part of team as me and Prateek or Suvir Anup. So look, sab ek hi team hai. So, and that's where right now what we have also done is, earlier we were very horizontal. I had done 3-4 SaaS deals and all that sort of thing. But right now, if you see, predominantly Jishnu and Abhishek are doing the next, like the SaaS deals and AI deals from India. We have a team in India as well. Puneet is there, Arjun, bunch of other folks who do the connect over here. But it's a continuous osmosis. डे आप यहाँ पर हो गए, अगले दिन आप चले जाओ यूएस में, वहां हमारे ऑफिस से बैठ जाओ, वहां पे आपको जिससे मिलना है. हमारी पूरी SaaS की अब 16 साल से करके सारी कंपनीज हैं which gives you that ecosystem also. So that helps us a lot.
I'm just trickled with loads of questions, but I think one interesting thing which I'm seeing as a trend in India, since we were discussing capital, IPO, etc., that I see a lot of companies filing for IPO, right from Groww to now Shiprocket, and all of them seem to have filed this confidentiality mode. Like, I was generally curious, what is this? Is this an exam happening in a closed door where result tabhi aayega jab aap pass hoge? What is this? I then read about it that US has had something like this. SEBI introduced in 2022. But if there's more nuance to it in terms of understanding, would love to know.
देखिए, मेरे हिसाब से तो हर किसी को कॉन्फिडेंशियल मोड में ही IPO फाइल करना चाहिए, because
of course आपको ऐसे ही होगा ना. That's a confidential mode where you don't get the result, you get to test waters. Failing privately is always like less.
But इसमें एक nuance है, Chirag. Failing privately to whom? Like to the markets or to SEBI? And I'll touch upon that. Like it's because this is driven by 3 pointers, and like two of them are less controversial. One is a little more controversial. Now, two of them is first, like जब तक आपने DRSP फाइल किया, उसके बाद IPO होगा नहीं होगा. You have seen that OYO has pulled it back a couple of times. MobiKwik did it multiple times. Why would you lay out all your secret sources, everything out in the public? That is your point probably कि आप public में fail करोगे, private में fail करोगे, क्या करोगे? You will take your time. That is one part of it. The second part of it is कि there are multiple other obvious benefits also, like कि भाई आपको फाइल करने के बाद सेबी अप्रूवल के बाद कॉन्फिडेंशियल में करने से 18 months का टाइम पीरियड है. यू गेट अ लॉट ऑफ मोर टाइम पीरियड टू जस्ट time the market and all that sort of thing. The third thing, which I have heard from quarters, I do not know which is true for who and all, but I think all of three of us will relate. See, companies mature from private to public market में, और जिस तरह से जो हम लोग numbers track कर रहे हैं, जो कर रहे हैं, many a times SEBI looks at those numbers in a very very different way. जिसको आप Chirag, you will be I'll put you on the anvil and you will be a case on that. Like you have so many revenue lines, right, in your business, right? How you are recognizing for your MIS, which your day-to-day board, versus how a SEBI will look at you, you don't even know.
Yeah.
So now you do it in public and it comes out as a ये कि नहीं इसके ना numbers में गोची है. That is the easiest thing that happens in the ecosystem. Now neither you have done IPO. Now you cannot raise private market से पैसे. So why would you take that risk? If you ask me, I will not advise any of my startups to do it in public, because just from I'm not saying कि कोई गोची कर रहा है, but just from the point of view कि many a times maturing from a private market MIS to a public market MIS will be a jump, which the iBankers will help you, but you never know. SEBI for the first time when it is looking at some of these tech companies' numbers and how they are recognized, they might be reacting to it. So that is this third point, which I think because of which most of the companies should actually think about confidential IPO listing much more deeply.
But then are you saying that, let's say in a confidentiality mode, if somebody files and the SEBI raises objections and rejects, then for private market, that's fine?
नहीं तो reject तो
no rejection, there is only objection.
Rejection से पहले तो 4-5 बार SEBI के questions आएंगे ना. So when you are doing in the confidential mode, why do you want to expose yourself to those questions also going into the public domain? I'm also thinking through this one, but I have not done an IPO yet. अभी VC में 5 साल ही हुए हैं, कुछ साल बाद. But if I were in that founder's position, why would I have every comment or the questions happening in public on stuff as like an MIS or something like that, like or the revenue recognition or any of these questions?
It's a fair point. I would agree, except for the fact that somehow even a confidential IPO filing का document तो बाहर हो ही जाता है. Like we see news articles in 2 days saying we have had exclusive access to the confidential.
Somebody wrote in the comment also that this is not. But to be fair to the journalists, that is their job also.
Yeah. But I think instead of being like fully public, ठीक है, एक दो media articles आएंगे, etc. ऐसा नहीं है from a competition lens also, you would say that at least competition को मोटा idea होता है, where is this business, where is that business, where is their strength lies. But I was generally, but it looks like that there is no downside. There is all upside.
I feel so. That is my initial right now reaction.
तो सबको इसी route से जाना चाहिए.
Yeah.
Just test water, see how is it faring out, and it gets you good preparedness stamp. And also I think a longer window, right? This is an 18-month window versus a full public
12 months.
12 months.
And the second factor is exactly what you mentioned, Chirag. Right now also this IPO window का market uncertainty is so high ना, कि आप क्यों, मतलब जो first point जो बोल रहे थे कि आप क्यों public में करोगे, कि मतलब numbers हम निकाल दिया, पता चला कि market ही crash कर गया, and then you do not have the same friendly environment to go and take your IPO in, you will want to come back, and that makes no sense to put all the numbers out there in public. So
yeah, makes sense. एक इस पे बट थोड़ा एक न्यूआंस्ड एक और क्वेश्चन था कि इंडिया में लगे एक ही तरीका है अभी, लाइक यूएस में देयर इज दिस डायरेक्ट लिस्टिंग और स्पैक. यहाँ पे ना स्पैक तो नहीं है, पर डायरेक्ट लिस्टिंग भी ऑप्शन नहीं है ना अभी. यू हैव टू गो थ्रू दिस एंटायर बुक बिल्डिंग प्रोसेस दैट ऑल आईपीओस हैव टू गो थ्रू.
As far as I know, yes, you are right. SPAC तो ऐसे भी US में भी SPAC वैक बना है, but कितना successful है क्या है, it's a TBD.
Yeah.
But direct versus book building, I think you are right. I will have to recheck, but I think book building से ही जाता है.
Got it. But what is the IPO that you are most excited by, Anand, in the next 12 months? Like something that is not part of the Nexus portfolio. I'm sure that you are excited about. Non-Nexus portfolio, what are you most excited about?
वो तो मतलब उसमें excited होना ही पड़ेगा भाई. But Groww, I think, it's a very it's a large IPO as well as the. Why I say Groww is that, it's interesting because we have talked about a lot about consumer companies. India is a consumer space. Fintech has been regulated and has been kicked in the balls so many times that the founders are in in a bad shape and all. In the midst of that, you have a company which comes out with a nobody even is questioning their whatever the valuation tag and where they can look at the revenue and the profits. They have been hit with regulatory tailwinds on the F&O sides, but yet they have so many other good numbers working in their favor. I think it excites me a lot.
Right. Fintech as a space we've had a lot of close calls, like PhonePe, 12 billion, Cred was at 6, now people are saying is at 3, Razorpay was at 7, 8, people are now saying we don't know when it will go IPO, but of all the doom and gloom in fintech, suddenly there is this company that may go IPO at $8 to $10 billion, which is a very material, like Decacorn valuation pay for a fintech company to go IPO is like a fresh, very fresh thing for the market.
Second, the more fresh thing I was thinking through and did not comment, that's why earlier, because I don't know, you guys can correct me if I'm wrong. This will be probably the first tech company which will go to IPO being profitable from day zero. None of the other companies have been profitable. They have gone into the market
got to profit.
Then we have later got
significant profit. It's not just that they have corrected books and maybe one-time correction. I was just checking numbers: 4,000 crores of revenue, 1,800 crores of PAT in FY25.
Yeah, that's I have not checked the exact numbers right now, but that's the sort of numbers which has been in this thing. It's probably it's actually, if I think about it, I cannot think of any other company. I don't remember. Policy Bazaar turned profitable later. Paytm never did.
Yeah. Earlier group had all taken 2 years to get to profitability and then market.
Even the others which are lined up right now also. I don't see any one of them. Meesho, Razorpay,
Shiprocket.
None of them are profitable.
Yeah, none of them are.
This is the only company which will be unique in its way that regulatory headwinds, fintech company, not too old a company has been this thing and still hitting the market as a profitable, almost a Decacorn valuation. So hats off to these guys, right? What they have done.
Yeah. No, I think at least I'm referring to, there is this interesting report which I think we had discussed, the RainGauge report. In that also, I think it was saying over the next 2 years, these companies will become profitable. So 2-year forward EBITDA is what was being given to them. This is actually a unique company and very sizable PAT here, looking at $8 to $10 billion of valuation. Crazy. And that too, Anand, you would have seen the journey that this company was born when Zerodha was actually big.
Zerodha was big and it was born on कि mutual fund कभी ये monetize नहीं होता है.
Correct.
Like in the same journey was Fisdom, Scriptbox and all that. What they should, so see, there are multiples. It will be a question because stock brokers, they generally trade 16 to 20x का multiple. उनका multiple कम होता है because, but that's where Groww is unique because it's not just a stockbroker; it's a mutual fund. It's
the whole wealth management thing across, right? Mutual funds to now they have their own funds also. It become asset management company of sorts.
एक तरफ से सोचो ना, मैं सोच रहा था इसने इस तरह से पकड़ा है कि कस्टमर की लाइफ साइकिल में हर चीज में वो टच करता रहेगा बंदे. Fisdom को it has bought now. It has IFAs also. It has broking. Let's say F&O में आपने पैसा लूज किया, but आप म्यूचुअल फंड के लिए तो आओगे. So while Zerodha has also created the ecosystem, growth ecosystem seems to be getting much more stronger and deeper. And that's where I feel it's very, very I will see how the valuation and how those things. It's a confidential DRHP, so I will not talk about the numbers that much. But it should get valued at a better multiple than a broker. It will be shortchanging if people start thinking about Groww as a broker.
So I think I really like their strategy that they went broad. They acquired the base. So I think FY25, they were what? I think close to 1.3, 1.4 crore users. Whereas if I compare that to a Zerodha, which is, I think, 80, 85 lakh user base. But they went very deep. They went into the trader community. That's the monetized segment. Whereas they said, okay, we are going to acquire this user base, which is mutual fund as a wedge, and then cross-sell them other things as they have more wealth. They'll have more needs. And they've been successfully doing that.
Correct. Zerodha was still a broad thing. It was like, अगर आप उसका 8.5 million देखोगे, probably 1 to 2 million were core traders, from which they were making most about.
I think Nitin Kamath has been publicly saying this: 10% of active traders contribute to 90% of trading volume in most intraday cash, and that's where they made money.
Correct. So if you see Dhan's number, the SEBI number is like they have just 1 million customer or something, and their revenues are in a very, very significant zone. Like it's a private number, but what Groww did was it went into a customer segment and acquired at a lower CAC, and then just kept building wealth on top of that. Now, obviously, there is a COVID FNO wave जहाँ पे FNO में पैसा बना. This retail customer should not be doing FNO. They came, but at the same time, they are more than 10 billion of AUM on mutual fund also. Now, it's all on direct, so you do not monetize it, but you have a customer touch point because of which the customer does not leave the platform. And that digital platform stickiness is a huge thing in itself, So,
and Dhan has also gone deeper into the trader community. Was it still problems to be solved there?
Correct. So what Dhan had done was, I remember PJ, we had a lot of chat. So his line was made to trade. And the thing that he picked up was that a lot of things are, for traders, the lifeline is around the chart and how they work on the chart. So he went around using trading chart ka native API. He was the first which gave the experience like that. And it was a 10x experience for the pro traders, which sort of, got him this niche segment of customer, but the highest revenue pool. His idea was exactly like what you, Chirag, said, that I am not going to be broad, but I am going to attack the revenue pool instead of the, Dao Mao pool sort of a thing. And then he sort of cut a very significant portion out of that revenue pool. This way.
I'm sure that he has eaten into some of the market share of incumbents.
थोड़ा तो खाया ही होगा, but at the same time, this market has also kept on increasing. That is what I said. India, by the way, trading volume is 40x of USA in terms of the volume. So it's crazy how and even in USA, such a mature market, if you think about it, while the swaps of the works were there, you had Robinhood which came in, you had eToro which came in, you had VBull which came in. So brokers keep coming by giving experiences and taking out positioning. So, and then that positioning matters. With that positioning, if you are at a lower CAC, you can get a customer and get him retained on your digital platform. There is an ARPU that you can make because the broker will trade and you will make that money on that trade. So, abhi bhi, jaise Sahi and these of the world are coming, there is business to be made over there.
I think since you mentioned low CAC is an important thing, are you seeing, and you also mentioned AI in India, are you seeing any emerging trends on AI being used, let's say, to create content and then using that to acquire at a very, very low cost? Are there startups which are starting to do this in a meaningful way?
Multiple places, like overall high level, be at least. Abhi main jis startup se milke is podcast liye bada, they were talking. They showed me the Excels. They have created like 10-15 scenarios. They have created 10-15 script ka broad this thing. So there is a whole permutation combination of let's say 5C3 sort of a thing. Ki jisko lekar it feeds into ChatGPT. It throws out the ChatGPT pe wrapper hai. It throws out then the sequence or the scripts which forms, and they are very quickly able to do A/B testing on the marketing and which script and which sort of thing is working, because AI is used to create the content on that also. And then the funnel optimization जो होता था all इसमें, the speed at which these guys have done this funnel optimization is just crazy. कि मतलब CAC half के बाद 25%, and that a lot of content companies are also doing right now. That if you see that content आया, content के कौन से hooks आपको डालने हैं, same आपके पूरे वीडियो बन गया है, उससे hooks निकाल के small snippets डालो and देखो कौन सा snippet काम कर रहा है, and then use that snippet to very fast, put your performance marketing pedal onto that snippet very, very hard. So
Yeah, Anand, we did discuss this in the last episode on micro dramas. That
Yeah.
how is that a booming trend in India?
Yeah.
But are you seeing fintechs also adopt to this, wherein they're going deeper and starting to use this as the like a scalable, effective cost acquisition mode?
So the last company I was talking about, from where I'm coming, it's a fintech. But at the same time, if you think about it, financial influencers and content marketing has been the key source of acquiring for fintechs right now. It's across. So the entire Groww story is a financial influencer and the content story, right? How they did about it. Jar cracked the financial influencer and this story in a very, very big way. So credit card, a lot of this acquisition which is happening, it's all happening through that sort of a content and display. So fintech is definitely one space which is seeing. Now also fintech mein matlab, there is also a little bit of misuse also which happens at some certain times, like a bunch of FOMO and what you're doing and all that sort of a thing. But across now the actually fintech versus consumer is not the slashing I would do. I would rather do B2B versus B2C. Is that happening or not? Now in B2C, you are definitely seeing AI adoption on marketing growing very, very significant way. And all this, what we talked about, is holding. What was interesting was another company which I was saying then, how are they doing using AI on B2B? And can then people coming and where B2B, you have people landing on your website. And then like this guy is making a company where he's asking that, should the website be a website anymore? Where search now is moving from Google to ChatGPT. Should like a clean sort of a thing experience exist where you just land on a landing page and you are able to ask specific whatever you are looking for and it just shows you. You do not need to have a landing page. So those sort of versions of B2B and how AI marketing can start revolutionizing, B2B, that has also started to play out. It's more at an earlier stage than B2C, but definitely there is impact which is happening over there.
I think my question was more from that, this retail broking as a space looks like has a huge profit pool.
Right.
And now because of AI, let's say there are newer ways of acquiring customers or cheaper ways of acquiring customers, which was not possible earlier. Does that open up the game again in terms of, let's say, anyone starting to do, like we have seen Lenskart 2.0 being attempted? Is there a Groww 2.0 or a Zerota 3.0 being attempted?
It's a very interesting question because in that, probably if you ask me personally, it will go beyond a marketing game. It will go into a product as well. So most of the guys who are coming to broking are coming for the first time. हवा भी नहीं है मतलब किसमें पैसे डालने हैं क्या डालने हैं तो AI tip, will that become a big thing? We will see all the brokers launching, but some will take a position, will say that I am your AI advisor to invest in a stock. I am your CFO. Like if you think about everybody should have a ChatGPT sort of a CFO where I can ask like the tax season is coming. Okay, just calculate my tax. Take all the data for account aggregator. So that sort of things on product innovation will come where broking, wealth, other places. And then, by the way, more nuanced, it's very, very ripe for disruption in India. Specifically, if you see what is required for AI, first of all, you need data to come into a very high, this way in an aggregated place, which what account aggregator is doing in a much, much more efficient way than a Plaid or anything does in the US. Second thing, in the first genre of robo advisory, everything failed because you did not have the execution API on top of the data platforms. So you will get the advice at one place and then you will go to the brokers at some other place. The cart will break and you will lose out customers. Versus now, for the first time, you have the data, whereas you can link your execution platforms also, execution APIs. whether it be banking API or the broking APIs at the same place. So the AI can make it much, much more powerful at just one workflow. So that's
We
where,
have
if you
a
ask me,
market view on this, Anand. The direct customer investing AUM versus the advisory AUM. What is bigger today in India?
अभी advisory bigger है, but the is 30-70 almost. 70 advisory है, 30 is direct. But direct is growing much, much faster than advisory.
What is the total
However,
size? The advisory ka, what is the size of the price there? Now, by this
Size of the
2x
price
right
is-
now. So Zerodha, Groww, Dhan, everything put together, that 2x is still being done through advisory. Like the LIC agent, leke, whoever is coming to your house and saying, buy these mutual funds. Right?
It's 2x.
And in your view, that could get disrupted first because of the AI tooling.
Not known. I will tell you why. Because it's not just the LIC. Like you have companies like NJ, Prudent, Anand Datta, very, very large companies. NJ, and these are like you have at the top IIFLs of the world and the Nuvamas of the world. So all these are there. See, apart from advisory, they also solve for the trust layer. And India mein abhi bhi, if you see, people are coming onto the financial ecosystem for the first time. There is one bit of which is ekdam top class advisory. Let's say the IFLs and the Nuvamas of the world. Those I don't think will move to AI. Like I'm not seeing 1,000 crore AUM guy saying that AI mein bata do kis mein lagaunga. There is more curated products, curated access. Nobody else has an access. Public data is only that much. So that will be one part of the advisory. Second part of the advisory, why did people go to this Bima uncle? Because he knows that there is a collar to hold on to कि अगर कल को मेरा पैसा वापस नहीं आएगा तो भैया फ्रैंकलिन का अगर मेरा डेट फंड गिर गया है तुम जाके घूम के वो पैसा निकाल के लाओगे. So this is over and above advisory. This is the trust layer. So and the direct is being used by right now, if you ask me, only at a particular size of AUM, young demography, which is getting into income for the first time, 5 saal hua hai, very confident with the digital demat sort of a thing. But still that segment or demography has a lower wealth, right? A guy who is 40 years old is not probably digital first, obviously has a more wealth right now than the guy who is coming into this. So that's why the direct is growing faster. But the guy who is holding onto the wealth, he probably still wants a IFA or a guy, and it doesn't he doesn't flinch at giving. Generally the take rate is 50 bips 50 bips to 100 bips tak jata hai uske range mein, whether it's debt or equity and all that mein. He's okay to have that comfort of trust for giving that amount of money.
But wo 100 bips agar main de raha hu, my question was, I agree with you. You are not going to replace human beings, but is there today scope for some good entrepreneurs to come and showcase a tech on an iPad and show them, dekho, it's not parchi, main aapko, and I will build trust. Yes, I will need the human layer to come visit, chai piyenge hum, har mahine milenge hum, and we will talk about your sons and daughters in the US and all of that. But I can wow you with the account aggregator plus AI plus showing you, keeping you updated every day. Just build more AI first compared to what, because I think that has not got disrupted for a long time now. Like a Nuvama size or a RJ Invest are huge companies, right?
Yeah. So think about it and you are absolutely 100% right. Like these things will get augmented. Any services where you have the service layer can get augmented by AI. But these specifically which is a data rich, like simple task like यार मेरे को compare करके बता दो कि benchmark से मेरा कैसा कर रहा है. These all AIs can just answer and get into that flow. But you are 100% right? Bunch of these companies will get that.
I think, Revant, we are consistently hearing from VCs that in AI world, especially the opportunity in India is design a 10x better experience, right? ये simple ऐसे नहीं हुआ कि okay onboarding का एक कर लिया, you are better onboarding. Redesign the entire experience. We discussed this during, let's say, how do you rediscover fashion in a AI world? I think that also has to be solved in a 10x way where not only from discovering to then tying up to, okay, can I deliver in 15 minutes? That's where I think massive opportunities, at least I am sensing and getting excited also कि यार fintech में इतने बड़े revenue pool में इतने बड़े profit pool में even if you make a small dent, it's a large outcome.
Yeah. But do you see some categories in B2C fintech also? Like I think Chirag keeps discussing that BNPL hasn't succeeded in India. We've had multiple attempts, right? 2012, 14 say every 3-4 years, some company has excited us and then nothing has really come out. And here we hear about it's worked in the US, it's worked in Europe, so much so it's worked in Middle East also now. Like Tabby and I think there's another company, I forget the name, they've scaled so much. So why is that India may BNPL didn't take off, and do we see that changing now with the overall consumption change?
And maybe Anand, I'll add that I have had this view that and we see it in our data that credit-based spending should increase from here. It is increasing, but if I project that to 5 years out, looks like that consumer demand, and those are credit-worthy people, right? Just that somebody needs to go out and lend them those $10, $20 on a line. Everyone wants to do that 8,000, 10,000 rupee one line, right? And we have had India also, by the way, Snap been doing really well now. So we work closely with them, and we have had failures also. So generally curious that, okay, why is India not having in a large base, which is expected to have credit, large outcomes, many people attempting it? Is there a playbook which has gone wrong? Or is it more got to do with regulatory?
हाँ मतलब काफी different level पे भी answers हैं इसके. दो तीन क्वेश्चन है. एक तो let's start with कि इंडिया में क्यों नहीं काम किया, because Klarnas of the world and this world, by the way, they work beautifully because of some of the D2C scaling so much that they scaled with them. It was more D2C driven than a platform driven, and some places it was ubiquitous acceptance as well. Snapmint has, and your example on Chirag, because you work closely with Snapmint also, Snapmint has executed well on something which Klarna tried to do, which Zest Money also tried to do, which is flipped into being a commerce front as well.
Having your own destination.
Having its own destination, because Klarna also later realized, see, hota kya hai? BNPL is a very small ticket size purchase, right? BNPL is never money generating. So you try to acquire customer on BNPL and then try to move them to PL to make money, especially if the BNPL is for a short duration.
You are saying, or are you counting pay in parts, pay in 3 as part of PL?
Because that is the evolution.
Yes.
Once you get into pay in 3 or EMI pay, this, so frankly, if that you count as a BNPL, then the BAP of all companies in India is there. Bajaj Finance is that.
Correct.
You have not seen a bigger outcome than Bajaj Finance in financial services world, and that they could do because they created the closed network of merchants where they already had this thing, and that goes back to wahan pe Klarna did with D2C and multiple checkout points. Here, the first generation of fintechs went with the platforms, where the platforms were always asking, what is extra that you are bringing to me? Then you do either BNPL or the free to pay to the worst customers, which is not already on, let's say, a Bajaj Finance or the somebody else. And then your PL book gets screwed, and then you do not make money. So the only way that other people could do, and Snapmint has survived. There is that Snapmint has gone through its phases. Kudos to the founders for gritting it out and surviving. And now they are the first one who has been able to flip and say, just like Klarna, I don't know how much successful I've not gone to that part of the business only, but I hear that a lot of business is now coming from Meesho also to them. So that commerce part, that you come to me, you are guaranteed you will get an EMI, has become a hook, and their margins have improved. Now, the disruption that in India actually truly that will happen will happen with the credit on UPI, where unlike, let's say, just the market places, checkout points that you had, or the India mein credit card checkout points were very limited also, right? It was only like 75, I'm forgetting the exact number, 75 lakh, like 7.5 million checkout points or something like that altogether. That was very, very different from, let's say, what it was for Klarna or somebody in the US, where you had credit checkout point everywhere, where you could try out and have the checkout experience. Here, you could not have that until and unless you are in the closed merchant group. Now, for the first time, once you can check out on a, let's say, UPI QR code, and you have, let's say, we have obviously invested in we have UPI credit card company called Kiwi, but let's say they open a, credit line also, and you can just snap and get it in 3 MI wherever you are. Like Swiggy does not now hold a power over you to say that, hey, you have to give, like Swiggy is a wrong example, probably Flipkart or somebody where you're doing a consumer durable purchase to get it in 3 MI or something. So you trying to acquire customer through Swiggy will always mean that you are doing that small ticket 15 days circular company. And then you are trying to go to a PL, and let's say Flipkart of the world will say that, hey, I will expose you to, and your credit cost will never match that of a Bajaj Finance. For a good customer, you will always lose out on the Bajaj Finance credit cost. So you end up with a bad customer. But now if you are getting embedded in the UPI checkout position where, the platform does not have that much power with you, and you have acquired the customer already. So customer is seeing, let's say, a Kiwi because it's a Kiwi customer, and because he has been acquired from somebody else, somewhere else, not from the platform itself. Then you still have a chance of getting a better customer and doing the BNPL and getting a part 3 this thing. So what I believe now, with the credit on UPI starting up, maybe you will see a revival of BNPL. Snapmint is a unique case. I'm not like frankly all to them to grit it out. It's also going through all different phases. Maybe the commerce part will work out, but the acceptance rail and the closed network has meant that the first versions of the Indian BNPL companies have really not worked. Because their acquisition channels have always remained this 15-day small ticket size loan, or the worst people who are probably not getting loan anywhere else, and still for acquisition you are acquiring and thinking that things will work out.
So you mean to say that, one, there is a selection bias, that people who are not credit worthy end up taking it, and two, it's a small ticket loan, so even if it is successful, you don't end up making a lot of money there. You'll have to either go them to a higher credit line. Anyway, I was just checking. I think RuPay credit card transactions on UPI as a percentage of total credit card transactions has become almost like close to 30%.
33 is the exact number that we are tracking. So it's growing like crazy. The government is also pushing. This is credit card, but now because the RuPay credit card, and the challenge, the nuance that gets lost over there though is that all these credit card transactions are not on UPI, because RuPay is done on POS also. So a part of this 33% is this thing. Obviously, we are closely tracking the numbers in Kiwi and other places where what is happening on UPI. So it's that number is growing even more crazy higher, because the direct, it's not the direct integration in the workflow which happens over there. You are seeing people use it, and also in their day-to-day use, they use its reward and all that sort of thing they get as well.
And just for users, just explain the flow, that how does it work? Is it got to do with that I should have an existing credit line with the bank, and then only the credit line gets issued on a credit on UPI, or I can apply for it, or banks are underwriting on the go?
So the credit line and credit card are different. So you can have a credit line even without having a credit card. Now, credit line, frankly, a NBFC can also give you a credit line, and that can attach to the, this thing. Credit card, only the banks can issue a credit card. Once you issue a credit card, it's just like any other credit card. Just think about it that if you attach it to a TPAP, which is allowed, like let's say it can be PhonePe, or it can be a fully integrated mobile first experience, like let's say a Kiwi, which is issuing its own credit card. Now it has different other benefits also. Then you can just go over and on the QR code, pay with your credit card instead of paying with your bank account or a UPI, the way you do that. So all the QR codes where you were paying from your bank account, the money was going, here now can go from the credit card. So now when it goes from credit card, all the benefits of credit card comes, which is essentially the rewards. The second part is that if you want to revolve, if you want to break it into EMI, you can do that. Now the credit line is different. Credit line is like the Bajaj EMI product which you have. Let's say you go to consumer durable, you have the QR they have, but you have a credit line from, let's say, HDFC Bank, which is your banker. You just QR, it is directly an EMI that you have taken. And the difference being in credit card, in the first 30 months period, you are not paying any interest, anything. So that is not bond. So the economics is very different. Versus here, the day zero, based on the subvention and all, it can vary. But day zero, a term loan has started on you. And you start bearing the interest, and you have to start paying that money.
Interesting. And what does it take for, like, we have seen this huge wave of UPI becoming the thing, right? And
Yeah.
people have anticipated that, others also like ONDC, which have been successful, but not so much like UPI
Yeah.
or Ocean for that example. What does
Yeah.
it take for credit on UPI to be like really successful? What are the levers you are tracking there?
So-
For this to be like the real mode of payment, taking on credit cards? I know it's on the up move, but probably I don't know if
Yeah.
it's at the inflection point or not.
So see, so what are these? These are generally called DPI, digital public infrastructure. So in DPIs, the biggest success case has been UPI, and then after that is the account aggregator, which is becoming now account aggregator is picking up like crazy. If you see their numbers, that's also increasing in an exponential way. Oken might pick up. ONDC, I don't know. While it's picking up, Magic Pin, my ex company, has been doing well on that. However, the credit on UPI is not dependent on any of them. It's just dependent on UPI. So if UPI is being accepted, it's about how the banks and the liability side or the NBFC starts giving you credit line. And bunch of that will start opening up right now. With credit products, people will first experiment, then open, then experiment, then open. It's the right way to do it so that you don't underwrite too much of risk. But to your question, Chirag, this credit on UPI is not dependent on any of the other DPI. So my answer will be that it can piggyback on UPI without having to cross any of the new hurdles which the other DPIs are having to do. And become very, very ubiquitous in some.
So just I think then linkages or banks opening up their APIs to getting linked on UPI interfaces is what
Correct.
requires, right?
Correct. आप देखोगे ये भी आ जाएगा कुछ दिनों में. Like you will start getting the credit lines over there.
So I'm personally, at least of the view that anything to do with UPI is a tailwind which one should like carry. One, of course, is credit on UPI. I think another one, when we were discussing yesterday, I opened up my phone to see how many autopays do I have. मेरे को याद भी नहीं था कितने हैं. I figured out I had 31. Imagine.
Wow.
मेरे को पता भी नहीं था 31 है. And I am yet to check on PhonePe. I realized कि सब लोग अलग अलग चलते हैं. ऐसा नहीं है कि सबका एक जगह पे दिख जाता है. So it was quite an eye-opening moment for me. And then I figured out.
Chirag. Be careful, Chirag.
I was checking 29 Apple है.
20, oh,
Which
wow.
is fine. But every episode there is something and I am like, भाई UPI Autopay इसके लिए ये हो रहा है करके. And last episode में तो comment आ गया कि भाई कुछ भी बोल दो रेवंत बोलेगा UPI Autopay के वजह से हो रहा है करके.
But it's not funny, like because मैं एक कंपनी की डीडी कर रहा था, उसके लिए मैंने ऐप लगाया पहली बार, मेरा UPI Autopay लग गया. For a person like me, I did not know how to take it out. That's how I realized कि ये तो फोन पे बैठा हुआ है, तो ऐप पे बैठा ही नहीं हुआ है कि यहाँ से कैंसिल करना है. So and like just think about the guys who are downloading it. It's so it's to Chirag your point. Like frankly, my previous company जहाँ पे मैं था, it used to be the prior version of UPI Autopay, and I'll tell you what I'm talking about. It was something called VAS. Like value added services जो टेलको में होता था ना, वो और कुछ नहीं था, यूपीआई ऑटोपे का ही एक छोटा भाई था. तो the company which I used to work with, like obviously it had a better, it started from Africa, then we launched in India. Like India launch नहीं हुआ था, IID में फंस गए थे हम लोग. But उसके बाद बांग्लादेश, फिलीपींस, मलेशिया हर जगह लॉन्च किया था. आइडिया ये था कि इंश्योरेंस अगर आपको लेना है, इंश्योरेंस इज अ वेरी बाइनरी प्रोडक्ट, राइट? पीपल डू नॉट हैव द कैश फ्लो. हर किसी के पास, मतलब एक ऑटो ड्राइवर के पास सोचिए 10,000 रुपए नहीं होंगे कि देकर मैं पूरे साल का इंश्योरेंस लूँ. तो आप 10-10 रुपए दो, 20-20 रुपए दो महीने का. जिस महीने आप जितना दे पा रहे हो उसके हिसाब से आपका कवर रहेगा. 10 रुपए दिया तो 1,000 रुपए का कवर है, 20 रुपए अगले महीने आपका कैश फ्लो है. तो एंड इट साउंड्स वेरी वेरी इंक्लूसिव. व्हाट द वे वी यूज्ड टू डाउन, एंड देन वी रियलाइज कि भाई पैसे कैसे लोगे. हर बार अगर 10 रुपए लेने के लिए आपको जाना पड़ेगा ऑटो ड्राइवर के पास, तो फिर वो चलेगा नहीं. तो उसका आंसर था कि ये आंसर शुरू हुआ था घाना से, जहाँ एम-पैसा चलता था टेलको से, कि भैया टेलको में अगर आपने 100 रुपए का टॉक टाइम दिया है, मैं 10 रुपए इंश्योरेंस के लिए घटा लूंगा. तो फिर वो करना शुरू किया हमने, और क्या स्केल किया कंपनी. मतलब यू वोंट लाइक, देयर वाज अ टाइम श्रीलंका, 1/3 ऑफ श्रीलंका वाज कवर्ड बाय अस. बांग्लादेश में हमारे 15 मिलियन या फिर कुछ लाइव्स हमने कवर किए थे. घाना में फैल गए थे. पाकिस्तान में वी वर द लार्जेस्ट इंश्योरर यूजिंग दिस. बट जो हम लोग यूपीआई ऑटो पे में इशू देख रहे हैं, वही इशू वहां पे था. क्लेम्स रेशियोज वर लाइक 2%, 3%. बिकॉज पीपल जस्ट डिडंट नो कि उनके पास इंश्योरेंस है. पैसे तो हर महीने कट जाते थे और हमें भी सक्सेस, बिकॉज हर कोई टॉक टाइम भरवाता था, टॉक टाइम से हमें पैसे आ जाते थे इंश्योरेंस के. बट इफ यू थिंक अबाउट इट, एंड दिस वाज गोइंग टू द रियली नीडी पीपल, आई यूज्ड टू फील बैड बिकॉज आई वाज द इंडिया CEO. देन आफ्टर दैट आई वाज हेडिंग साउथ ईस्ट एशिया फॉर देम, एंड आई वाज लाइक यार ये तो उल्टा ही हो गया कि सबसे गरीब तबके के लिए गए आप अच्छा करने के लिए और सबसे ज्यादा आपने उसी की मार ली. तो बिकॉज 10-20 रुपए फॉर देम पर मंथ मैटर्ड. एंड देन द every geography, I kid you not a single geography, the regulator came after us. Like this was the telco regulator, then the financial regulator, कि भाई ऐसा कैसे हो रहा है कि इंश्योरेंस प्रोडक्ट में. एंड देन वी स्टार्टेड कि अच्छा क्लेम्स रेशियो शुड इंक्रीज टू गो टू 30%, 40%. उसको करने का तरीका क्या है कि आप मतलब कुछ भी बढ़ा दो, प्राइस घटा दो, कुछ बढ़ा दो, लाइक जितना आपने प्रीमियम लिया उसका प्राइस घटा दो, या फिर आपने जितना कवर दिया उसका प्राइस बढ़ा दो, तो फिर आपका मतलब क्लेम्स रेशियो आर्टिफिशियली दिखने लगेगा.
करेक्ट.
फ्रीक्वेंसी ऑफ क्लेम तो मतलब 80-85% कस्टमर को पता ही नहीं है कि उसके पास इंश्योरेंस है. Unfortunately, a version of that is playing out now with UPI Autopay. Whether this be in content, whether this be in some of the fintech places, now there will be some patches.
Like the data point on SIPs.
I didn't want to bring that कि मेरे पास 31 लोगों ने कर लिए तो और 31 UPI
No,
auto
but
pay
Chirag,
तो
I think that's the thing, right? What he's saying is if educated people and people who are savvy with the internet and mobile apps are not able to figure कि where all we have set up an auto pay, and his example of कि sign up पे ही auto pay हो गया, and for you to exit that is a big task. There's a lot of friction to exit that auto pay. And what I'm hearing at least is that SEBI is noticing this because there's a significant amount of, I mean, the good part is the SIP auto pays are a good thing, right? Like लोगों का जैसे ही पहले 31st या 1st को तनख्वाह आती है, I think they will set up auto pays for those dates where directly there is a sweep. What used to be called a sweep in, sweep out in banks before, right? UPI Autopay is how they are investing in SIPs now. But
I was checking 700 crores month on month increase on SIP mutual fund, SIPs, IPOs, and most of that is UPI.
But पता है क्या रेवंत, like and Chirag, like wealth तो तब भी सही है because आपका वो पैसा आप ही का है. It is going to, you're not consuming it, you are saving it, so you will get back that money. So the regulator, I think, I'm guessing here, the regulator will still be okay about savings product is the only product where they will be okay, because you are storing the money for them and the money will go back to them. But if you look at content companies now, you can give an argument of कि Netflix भी ऐसे ही चलता है क्योंकि फाइनली हमारे क्रेडिट कार्ड में लगा हुआ है.
Correct.
But can you guess the M3 retention or the M2 retention of some of these content companies which are on UPI this thing Autopay? This is less than 10%. 10 to 15% के बीच में आता है. 85% लोगों को मतलब पैसा दे रहे पता भी नहीं है कि भाई है. The other number,
then they feel cheated and then they go and cancel it, I guess.
So फिर ये क्रेड टाइप अपॉर्चुनिटी बन जाती है यहाँ पर एक कि एक एग्रीगेटर बनाओ और उसको बोलो भाई तुम बताओ कि यहाँ पर पैसे जा रहे हैं, प्लीज रिव्यू.
Yeah, there are SaaS bills like this. Know your SaaS bills for a company like that. You will have a cool credit like app saying you all auto pays in one. Yeah.
तो US में ये कंपनी होती थी. Truebill was this company only. They will help you unsubscribe from your subscription which will be hidden. It was $1 billion company because वहाँ पे उस वक्त डिजिटल भी नहीं होता था, तो unsubscribe करना ही बहुत पेन पॉइंट होता था. They actually then bought, I think, which one did it? Bought some other large company, it morphed and all that. But it was a thing where you will have a subscription to unsubscribe from all the other things which is there.
Yeah,
randomly taking away.
बहुत जल्दी आना पड़ेगा ये. Like the way every consumer tech app is sort of saying कि यार ये 5 रुपए 9 रुपए लेके just aggregate and build a large revenue base, which is almost 100% gross margin, right? Like पता ही नहीं लोगों को consume.
Exactly. 2054 तक का परमिशन ले लिया उसने वैसे.
हाँ मतलब
30 year परमिशन ले लिया उसने.
Correct. So I was like ये क्या है? तो RBI will come down. RBI has come down heavily on.
You can't give a 30-year permission like उतना I know Chirag is very healthy and
मैंने select करा है. By default, I think that's the maximum. So while numbers are crazy for UPI Autopay, it's become what? I was seeing 210 crore recurring digital transactions in India last year. to this year it's become 400 crore. Out of that, so that number has become 2x, whereas UPI Autopay was 70 crores, it's become 210 crores. So it's already like a significant portion.
चिराग, कि अभी तो तुम्हारे पास पैसा है तब तुम यूपीआई ऑटो पे हो, तो बैंक में पैसा नहीं है तो क्या ही कटेगा. इमेजिन करो क्रेडिट ऑन यूपीआई भी तुमने साइन अप करा लिया और यूपीआई ऑटो पे भी है, मतलब भाई फिर तो लाइक यू आर डेट बनते जा रहे हो और तुम्हें पता भी नहीं है करके.
करेक्ट.
But this will have to be looked at, to be honest, because India mein, if I look at, I mean, we are capitalist, but because we have such a large base of people below the 50,000 per month mark, the government and the regulator has to protect these individuals, right? And that's where a lot of this misuse is also happening. So hopefully before they roll out extensively, and RuPay cards, the maximum wahi pe hai. Your RuPay card is not with the people earning more than 2 lakh, right? They are focusing on the Axis Vistara or the HDFC Infinia and all of those, Axis Burgundy, because you want those points and you want everything. Whereas the RuPay card, biggest penetration is in the sub 1 lakh a month segment, where bank account access the credit.
I don't think UPI credit card पे अभी recurring वाला है, मेरे को check करना पड़ेगा. But you are right that in future it can come. But you are right that, see, sometimes I feel good about our regulator, because what happens is that, like being a fintech investor, I should be murdered for saying that. But any which ways, I feel good about the regulator because, like India में financial systems is very, very nascent. अभी लोगों का ट्रस्ट बन रहा है. अभी तो लोगों ने कैश से, लाइक हमारे लाइफ में जब मैं बच्चा था, टाइम हो गया थोड़ा सा, बट उस वक्त पेरेंट्स यूज्ड टू से कि भैया स्टॉक मार्केट में पैसे मत डालो, मतलब वहां पे केवल चोरी होती है. एंड तो द फाइनेंशियल एक्सेस वाला जो प्रॉब्लम था, फाइनेंशियल एक्सेस का प्रॉब्लम हो गया अभी. अगर आप देखो कि रेगुलेटर को आके बोलना पड़ रहा कि इतना एफएनओ मत करो, इतना स्टॉक मत करो, रिटेल इन्वेस्टर के लिए खराब है. सो दैट्स द स्विंग इट हैज हैपेंड, बिकॉज नाउ very by being very, very strict, the regulator has ensured that people have trust on the ecosystem, in the financial ecosystem, कि आप पैसे देते हो, पैसा वापस आ जाता है. ऐसा नहीं है कि पहले फर्जी पेपर पे आपका डीमैट मतलब स्टॉक मिलता था, आपको कोई फर्जी आपको दे देता था, उसके बाद पैसे निकालने जाते थे, आपको पैसा नहीं निकल जाता. वो सारी चीजें गवर्नमेंट ने बहुत मुश्किल से स्टॉप की है. यूपीआई पे उसके बाद डिमॉन जब भी हुआ, जैसे हुआ, उसके बाद ट्रस्ट आया लोगों का कि भाई मर्चेंट एक्सेप्ट भी कर रहा है. अब यूपीआई से अगर लोगों का ट्रस्ट हटने लगा, देन यू हैव अ वेरी, वेरी बिग प्रॉब्लम देन सेइंग दैट कि अच्छा सम ऑफ द स्टार्टअप्स आर नॉट वर्किंग और सम ऑफ द टेक कंपनीज आर नॉट वर्किंग बिकॉज देयर इज अ इशू अराउंड यूपीआई ऑन. सी फ्रैंकली, UPI Autopay has also enabled many of the digital businesses which would never have existed. In India, content and all में हम लोग बोलते थे monetization ही कैसे होगा. Now the friction has reduced so much that genuinely there are businesses which can happen. EdTech can happen for the first time in a very, very meaningful way by not having to charge 75,000, 70,000, but micro payments over there. But if you take it to the excessive way, then the regulator will have to come up now or later. So it's like it is bound to happen.
Interesting. Anand, ये बताओ कि are you, because of this UPI Autopay, we have been discussing, observing this, that is India getting into a mode of buying a subscription, right? There are various different frameworks for it कि defined value मिलना चाहिए, मुझे pain होना चाहिए तभी मैं, I sign up for things. We have discussed that as AOV increases, India is still not comfortable. My answer at the moment looks like that, for these content companies where you're paying 100, 200 rupees, that kind of subscription, India is getting okay with. But if that is true, then I think that's also like a good start where India can tomorrow start to pay for subscription of physical goods also, which are very recurring, like we discussed in the health card episode with health card CEO. But he was of the view कि India में 2,000 रुपए commitment कोई बहुत कम लोग कर रहे हैं. What are you seeing anything there in terms of subscription? Because that opens up like very new markets.
Price point पे तो हो रहा है, and content is the first place जहाँ पे हो रहा है, definitely हो रहा है. मतलब Hotstar and cricket was the first example, right? जहाँ पे लोग देख ही रहे थे. And the answer वहाँ पर भी ये UPI Autopay वाला भी answer है कि आपको customer को ROI देना पड़ेगा. Finally, the customer should get something out of that money तो वो आप देख लीजिए ना कि कितना भी टेक अच्छा था या खराब था। सोनी लिव जब वो स्कैम 92 लाता है तो लोग मतलब वो खराब टेक में भी घुस पड़ा के वो देखते हैं,
और तभी जाके ले लेते हैं।
हाँ। तो कंटेंट अच्छा दोगे तो आप जनता आएगी, मतलब तो वही आंसर है कि कंटेंट में अब एट अ पर्टिकुलर प्राइस पॉइंट पीपल आर ओके टेकिंग सब्सक्रिप्शन रादर देन गोइंग थ्रू द hoops. अगेन अ स्लाइस एंड डाइस ऑफ पीपल, लाइक देयर इज अ स्टिल अ सिग्निफिकेंट मार्केट जहाँ पे बिजनेस बन सकता है। बट इफ यू स्टार्ट गेटिंग इनटू यूपीआई ऑटोपे इन अ वे जहाँ पे आपका मंथली एक्टिव यूजर बाय मंथली पेइंग यूजर एज अ रेशियो इफ यू टेक कि कितने लोग आ रहे हैं वर्सेस कितने लोग पैसे दे रहे हैं, दैट इज बिलो अ सर्टेन परसेंटेज, then it will start falling out somewhere.
So फिजिकल गुड्स में दिक्कत ये हो रही है ना चिराग की 2000-2500 रुपए बहुत मुश्किल है बिकॉज पीपल वेट फॉर प्राइस चेंजेस, राइट? But at a sub 500 rupees, at least if you see, QuickCom is solving for subscription because by design in physical goods दो चीज चाहिए. एक, I will be like for example on our, I keep pushing the product team here. Why don't we have for, because we are as health and wellness essential, right? And we have a lot of sub 500 rupee products also. Customer also wants the assurity of कि यार 1-2 घंटे में डिलीवर तो हो जाएगा करके. And unless you are consistently delivering 3 or 4 times within a couple of hours, वो habit बनेगी नहीं. Whereas QuickCom today, at least I am now seeing the health and wellness market on QuickCom has surpassed Amazon, by the way. And very soon, I think in 12 months, because if I see the growth rates, will surpass Amazon plus Flipkart. And the answer is the less than 30-minute delivery, let's not even say 10 minutes, and sub 1,000 rupee products. Still not happening on the 2,000, 3,000 rupee proteins that Sameer was talking about. Why he was saying D2C heavy is because 3,000 rupees, if I have to consume every month, then a 10% discount is also meaningful enough for me to say कि चलो यार let me shift to some other platform where I'm getting the discount. Whereas sub 500 में अगर 30-40 रुपए का गैप है तो लोग फिर बोलते हैं चलो यार कन्वीनियंस और यहाँ पे कर लेते हैं. So unless
और कंजम्पशन का थोड़ा सर्टेनिटी भी होना चाहिए. आई एम थिंकिंग आउट लाउड हियर बाय द वे, फर्स्ट प्रिंसिपल से भाई आपका वो मैं प्रोटीन यूज करता हूँ बट मेरे को पता ही नहीं कि मतलब इतना भी डिसिप्लिन नहीं हो कि हर रोज खा रहा हूँ कि वो 3,000 का बास्केट वो महीने में खत्म ही हो जाएगा.
इतना पेन पॉइंट नहीं है रे इसमें प्रोटीन में कि लेट्स से एक दिन नहीं भी खाया ओके करेक्ट बट इट वर्क्स ऑन थिंग्स वेयर यू एक्चुअली हैव अ पेन पॉइंट. लेट्स से यू हैव अ स्मॉल किड एट होम एंड डायपर नहीं है करेक्ट पक्का डांट पड़ने वाला.
भी अच्छा एग्जांपल है चिराग. आप देखिए इंडिया तो पहले सब्सक्रिप्शन पे ही काम करता था. हम सबके घर में दूध का सब्सक्रिप्शन था ना, मतलब वो आके दूध देके जाता था. वो तो चेंज हुआ फिर बाद में जाके टेट्रा पैक और इसमें, एंड दैट वाज अ फिजिकल गुड बिकॉज द सर्टेनिटी ऑफ कंजम्पशन वाज देयर इन दैट. So, and the certainty of the quantity was also there in certain way. And maybe fresh is the place जहाँ पर ये सब्सक्रिप्शन वापस से शुरू होगा. Country Delight हो गया या फिर इसका की एग्जांपल है, and these sort of things.
No, I remember 5-7 years back there was a wave of startups which used to do these trial boxes on beauty. Do you think because of subscription that might re-emerge? That was an interesting segment, but payments दोबारा नहीं हो पाती थी. एक ही बारी बंदा लेता था. I think that was the missing piece.
बट चिराग उसमें ना हम थोड़ा फोर्स नहीं कर रहे हैं मस्ट हैव करने के लिए, मतलब उसको कि हर महीने क्या जरूरत है एक ब्यूटी का बॉक्स का. मतलब जिस महीने जरूरत है वहां पे
ऑन फीमेल व्यूअर्स आर गोइंग टू से तीन मेल बैठ के डिस्कस कर रहे हैं कि क्या जरूरत है ब्यूटी का.
अरे मेरा पहला प्रोजेक्ट कलर बार पे था. लोगों ने खड़ा कर दिया था मॉल के बाहर लड़कियों से पूछने की कौन सा मेकअप लगा के आ रहे हो. पिटते बचा था मैं साकेत. That's what you do for a consumer. But I think some of this was like socks का भी ऐसा आया था कि socks का सब्सक्रिप्शन है मंथ का. For me the question there was not payment. The question was more whether the value prop itself is that strong or subscription or not. And then your question is right, Revant. Health वाला कहीं बीच में आता है कि हाँ मेरे को जैसे मैं I used your one of those gummies I told you earlier also, right? But मेरे केस में था कि उसमें मेरे यूज था कि मैं कितना गमीज रोज खा रहा हूँ, कितना डिसिप्लिन से खा रहा हूँ, मुझे पता नहीं कि वो जमा होता रहेगा कि नहीं. आई एम बाइंग द ऑप्शनलिटी ऑफ सेइंग कि यार जब खरीदना होगा, हाँ वो अगर DTC से डायरेक्ट में 15 दिन में आ रहा है वर्सेस जेप्टो में मुझे आज ही मिल जाएगा, आई विल ऑलवेज गो एंड बाय ऑन जेप्टो. So that is a different.
Yeah. So
Act-
I agree with you. So first, in my view, Chirag, for physical goods, we'll still have to solve for assurance of delivery, which is, let's say, a couple of hours. Then if it becomes an absolute essential, like in my house, Little Joy's के लिए, the kids milk mix is an absolute essential कि बच्चा दूध पिएगा ही नहीं उसके बिना. But उसके लिए भी, if I'm not going to assure a 1-2 hour delivery, like we get massive grief with even 1 day delivery delay. कि यार ये क्यों हो रहा है करके. Like my kid will not drink the milk and stuff like that. So then people stock up or they go to QuickCom. So first layer for physical goods will still be assurance of timely delivery. Then जो essential services है, like a diaper हो गया, बच्चों के लिए कुछ हो गया, largely that is where you don't want to take a big risk, right? Or even for adults.
Sorry to pick you, but here, let's say if I'm on subscription, right? Then, as a vendor, I can dispatch it 2 दिन पहले ना, तेरे को time पे मिलेगा ना. If I know that you're going to use it on first.
100% agree. 100% agree. But I'm saying customer will not choose the subscription as a data point unless they know कि मैंने 3 बार order किया अच्छे से time पे आया है करके.
Correct.
That is all I'm saying.
Correct. So, yes, some kind of buyer protection there would help.
And today, because QuickCom is giving this 15-minute delivery, like most of our customers, most of the people I know in the ecosystem are already buying from QuickCom. They're like, यार कौन रुकेगा यार एक दिन के लिए? I know I'm in Bangalore, तुम 2 घंटे में करते हो, but यार 15 मिनट में आ रहा है. So वो habit तोड़ना बहुत मुश्किल हो गया.
नहीं, और I'm to thinking as a consumer, isn't my optionality my biggest? Like, why do I need a subscription and want to time myself out? जब मुझे मिल ही रहा है 10 मिनट में, जब खत्म हो जा रहा है, मैं सब्सक्रिप्शन क्यों लूँ? अब बहुत डीप डिस्काउंट दोगे तब मैं सोचूंगा, तब मस्ट हैव. बट वर्सेस द प्रोज एंड कॉन्स ऑफ हैविंग माय ऑप्शनलिटी की जब जरूरत पड़ी मैंने मंगा लिया, 10 मिनट में मिल जा रहा है, आई विल कीप माय ऑप्शनलिटी विद मी.
वो दिक्कत हो रही है चिराग. लाइक पीपल आर डूइंग कंट्रोल है ना, पूरा फुल कंट्रोल है.
पूरा कंट्रोल मेरे पास है.
इनफैक्ट आई बिलीव
कंटेंट में, बिकॉज इट्स अ फुल लाइब्रेरी, राइट? इट्स मोर लाइक अ लाइब्रेरी सब्सक्रिप्शन कि मेरे को जाके उसके अंदर जो चूज करना है कर लूँ, मैं जब देखना है देख के उस टाइम फ्रेम में खत्म कर दूं. इट्स अ वेरी डिफरेंट एक्सपीरियंस कंपेयर टू हार्ड product consumption.
Any other segments?
Country Delight, and I don't know, but I'm hearing Country Delight is now facing a little bit of headwind from the cities where the QuickCom has become very big, because while milk is still that basic behavior, the rest of their ARPU increase, which was into vegetables and groceries, people are saying that, यार, why do I need to even do previous night ordering, right? Like, मेरे को 10 मिनट में जब चाहिए तब आ जाएगा. So they also then, I think, went into a 30-minute delivery because they saw their customers now asking and saying, boss, why should I order the previous night? So so this is like that Delta 4 experience is very hard to beat. यार, वो customer behavior change हुआ है.
Only place, Revant, that can play out is fresh. जहाँ पे आप क्वालिटी पे खेलोगे और बोलोगे कि नहीं, जेप्टो में या फिर उसमें आपको इसका मतलब स्टोर होता है, जो जैसे मैंने अपने घर के बास्केट में शिफ्ट वहां पे ही देखा है कि मिल्क वी यूज्ड टू टेक टेट्रा पैक ऑर्डर व्हेनेवर इट इज फ्रॉम जेप्टो एंड ऑल, एज लाइक विथ फॉर द किड दो, एज सून एज अक्षय कल्पा केम अप इन द पिक्चर, देयर वाज नो वे वी आर गोइंग टू इसी से लेना है, ये आएगा बिकॉज इट्स अ हाई
क्वालिटी भी है. एंड आई थिंक उसके अंदर गेटिंग टू ऑर्डर डेली, when you know that वो तो आएगा ही, is like again a issue that I'll go to a Zepto app and then try and order. But anyways, Anand, I wanted to just quickly touch upon that any other sectors where you're seeing tailwinds because of UPI Autopay. So we discussed, let's say UPI apps or subscription apps getting traction because of it. Insurance, you said regulator might come back if it is not very clear.
हुआ नहीं है, इंडिया में नहीं हुआ है. वो वैस से हम लोग पिछला वर्षन में इंडिया में उसको भी नहीं कर पाए थे. इंडिया छोड़ के बाकी हर मार्केट में किया था हमने. उसमें वेल्थ में होगा, वेल्थ में हो रहा है. देयर आर कंपनीज व्हिच आर डूइंग डेली सेविंग्स, सो वेल्थ इज समथिंग व्हिच इज हैपनिंग.
Like Jar, I think, is a big beneficiary of this, right?
Jar is a big beneficiary. There is a company called Bachat also, जिसको Lightspeed ने पैसे डाले हैं. I think multiple other platforms will also put in over there. ये इंडिया में जैसे वो चिट फंड चलता था या फिर पद पेटी चलता था, those sort of things can now shift to a UPI autopay sort of a mode कि हर रोज आप दे दो उसमें. Content is obviously a big beneficiary. EdTech will become a big beneficiary from this
I
one.
think that's a big one. It's not only edtech, like formal education. I see so many different use cases. I was speaking to someone who was taking classes of violin, piano.
Correct.
All of that, I think, will become possible that you can actually book one class of your gym.
Correct.
And get it on autopay. All of that is like beautiful.
Correct. See, the other video, apart from subscription, like what is happening is, it is also enabling and taking away friction from paying a very large amount at your trial. Induction towards trial is becoming a very small ticket now, because you can say कि अच्छा चलो इसको लगा दो, थोड़ा वो SaaS type का, and that it's an evolution. If you remember 2010 में when first wave of commerce started, the question was कि यार इंडिया में तो क्रेडिट कार्ड ही नहीं है, तो आपका e-commerce बड़ा हो कैसे सकता है? Payment will be a blockage. Then came the wallets के बाद हुआ एक अनलॉक हुआ कि चलो ठीक है, वह पेटीएम का वॉलेट लगा के उबर में बैठ जाएंगे, जो भी हुआ. Then came UPI, which was a massive unlock. Then credit card was no more a blocker. Every payment could happen digitally, and massive wind of these things came. Now this UPI autopay is a evolution in that level कि everything which could happen at a much smaller ticket size, in the 2x2 and the smaller ticket size and subscription format, those are getting unlocked. So I believe that is a very, very big unlock which is happening, which will, like, if regulated well and people stop, like first phase में हमेशा उसका misuse थोड़ा सा तो होगा ही, उसके बाद I think which will tone down this everything which was unmonetizable earlier, like gaming हो गया, content हो गया, edtech हो गया, bunch of these can just open up with UPI autopay.
Yeah, quite fascinating. Yeah, I think, if we start to take 10-year bets on UPI, autopay, AI, creating 10x better experiences around this, and India riding the quick wave.
That is one of the
Super.
ये मजा आएगा यार. I think अपने लिए, sorry, I think is there a digital, the broad read I am trying to figure is, Chirag, are there digital pieces that we could stitch in? Like, for example, if I take a Swiggy One equivalent, which Swiggy has said that, free delivery, is there a, like the Zepto Pass, etc., and instead of taking a 3-month, 6-month, could you, for example, enable across D2C brands a 19 rupees every month pass that enables free delivery or something like that? That could, like, more than physical goods, I think it's still digital sachets, if you can call it that people will still subscribe for. I think physical good companies like Shantanu, mine, Sameer Maheshwari, etc., will still need to. हमारा अभी भी रोटी कपड़ा मकान प्रॉब्लम है कि भाई माल टाइम पे पहुंचा दो या अच्छा क्वालिटी बनाओ ताकि कस्टमर को दिक्कत ना आए करके. While it's exciting to see, and I would love to, like, we had flirted with subscription in the second year of our business, and everyone was super excited. But दिक्कत वही तय हुई थी कि you had to discount it and say that, like, as Amazon subscribe and save, it allows you to even go to 20% if you do subscribe and save. But मैंने Amazon पे देखा है वो behavior. People do subscribe and save, get the discount and then cancel.
उससे किड वाले आते ही नहीं.
तो मतलब then full price पे why would someone, वो दिक्कत हमेशा होती है. Like what Anand was saying, how do you make it lucrative enough? वो physical goods में मुश्किल है. Maybe there's a digital sachet that we can do for $10-20 a month. And what is the benefit you get against that is and it's still maybe at a GoKwik layer where you enable all the brands in the country. Whether it's protection, whether it's an aha moment, whether it's something extra, I'm sure some nice business idea will come out of this.
Yeah. Like subscription of a basket can work. कि मेरे को सब्सक्राइब कर लेने तो ये बास्केट आ रहा है, मैं बास्केट को चेंज कर दे रहा हूँ, या फिर I'm just thinking out loud actually.
Even some of those things like no questions asked returns on that is a big pain point for, or even timely delivery on D2C. At the moment, while we are looking at this other end of the extreme 15-minute delivery in D2C, it's actually, बता दो 2-3 दिन में आएगा. So
I think-
we are on this
Yeah.
extreme end.
हाँ वो तो अलग एक वेक्टर है जो सॉल्व होना पड़ेगा. I think because the customer expectations is changing now.
Yeah.
The quick commerce, the customer expectation is just changing. I am being myself being impatient. Like जबकि लाइफ में कोई अंतर नहीं पड़ता उससे, but फिर भी it's like yeah.
Super. I see you also, or in fact, all three of us wearing Whoop. Have you also now become one of those things ki subah utho or so that metric will decide how my day is going to go be ये आज रेड में रिकवरी या आज ग्रीन में है.
कभी कभी तो पता नहीं चलता है वो से टेंशन घटा है कि बढ़ा है.
That metric in the morning decides. कभी कभी मुझे लगता है आज नींद अच्छी नहीं आई है, suddenly it's green.
हाँ नहीं, और कभी कभी ऐसा जैसे आज मेरा हुआ है बिकॉज आई केम बैक फ्रॉम अ वेकेशन डे बिफोर यस्टरडे. आज मैं दिल्ली ट्रैवल करके आया हूँ, तो ऑब्वियसली स्लीप वाज शॉर्ट. 26% का मेरा रिकवरी है. अब मैं क्या करूं, बट खुद को खराब लग रहा कि यार ये क्या है. अब पूरा दिन मैं बस यही सोच रहा हूँ कि हाउ डू आई इंप्रूव दिस 26% रिकवरी जो समथिंग.
आंदोलन ने तो अभी पहना हुआ है शब्द.
Sorry. No, I'm not moved to 5.
अच्छा.
नहीं.
मेरा-
Frankly speaking, I also have a Apple Watch and अभी चार्ज पे लगा हुआ है. I actually right now ये अलग ही स्टोरी है. मेरा iPhone भुला गया है, so I cannot see the tracking. I will have to see that. And Whoop connects to Android. So I had bought to try it also, but I have found actually Apple Watch to be the most, like what do you say, applicable or application oriented. Like जैसे मतलब what do I mean by that? अगर आज मेरा जैसे Whoop में क्या होता है, जब स्ट्रेन दिखाता है, इट्स अ लॉगरिथमिक स्केल. 14 हो गया, अब मैं क्या करूं? 15 करने के लिए कितना करना है मुझे नहीं पता है. बट एप्पल वॉच में मुझे पता है कि यार स्टेप्स तो मतलब 10,000 स्टेप्स करना है, 2,000 स्टेप और करना है, या फिर इस रिंग को कंप्लीट करना है तो 15 मिनट और करना है. सो आई हैव समहाउ found Apple Watch to be way more practical. Whoop on the sleep and recovery part is just very, 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 very good. Like
Yeah.
compared to anything.
Yeah. My son got excited because he's a cricket fan, and for some reason इंडिया इंग्लैंड टेस्ट चल रहा है और सबने वो पहना है. वो मेरे को बता रहा, देखो इसने ये पहना है, उसने वो पहना है. तो सोच रहा हूँ भाई चल क्या रहा है, इन लोग सबको स्पॉन्सर कर दिया लगता है. एवरी स्पोर्ट्समैन हैज बीन स्पॉन्सर्ड बाय these guys.
IPL में everyone was wearing a Whoop. In fact, in one of the matches, somebody was playing and the ball hit the Whoop and the Whoop broke, and it became like such a big advertising place for that thing.